think every one of us has found ourselves in a situation where we've dealt with somebody that we had to figure out whether our dealings with that person were a result of cluelessness or maliciousness. I think that's something that we've all had to deal with. And I want to tackle this idea a little bit on today's issue, whatever you want to call it, of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 21st of December of 2021. Thank you for everyone who's been here who is here on the Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you if you've been here in past. And I appreciate it very much. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. And again, the subject that I sort of want to cover today is one of cluelessness or malice. And I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes real quick, but obviously you've been on the road when somebody's cut you off and you're wondering whether they were clueless or malicious or what was going on there. And there are some other things that can possibly factor into that, but I think we're just going to try to sort of stick to those two at the moment. And I'm going to give you in my notes a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about and let you sort of draw your own conclusions. And by the way, I'd be interested to know what you think about what I say. But let me go ahead and get on with the notes. I'm walking in the aisles of my local store when a person comes in on the other side of an aisle. I'm already halfway down. The person mutters, "Sorry," and continues walking toward me head down. The aisle can hold exactly one person with a cart. If it was two people walking in the aisle, it would be no problem. We both have carts. I turn around and back out. I say something I shouldn't, walking away down another aisle. Essentially, it's the same as jerk, except it's a little stronger worded and something I definitely should not be saying. When the other shopper started down the aisle, it can be argued to be an accident. They didn't really intend to do what they did. They didn't intend to cause problems. After that, I have to ask the question, were they clueless or malicious? My answer, it's not even questionable. It's malice. Why? At the beginning, they had no idea. They were clueless. When they continued down the aisle, forcing me out, the excuse of being witless, in my view, is gone. They don't have that excuse anymore. Now they're continuing down an aisle they know was occupied and forcing a conflict. And remember what I said. I was partway down the aisle. They entered the aisle and forced me out. Okay? Unless I diffuse, things escalate. Something will happen, things will escalate. Maybe you think I'm overreacting, and truthfully, malice or not, I probably did do so. I probably did overreact. I was still walking in that same store, minding my own business and having moved on from the, quote, incident, end of quote. I go in search of my son and find him in a toy aisle. The other person happens to be quite nearby. As I say, I've moved on. I'm done with that whole situation. He definitely has not. He starts talking about calling store security on me. So I guess it must be a mix of cluelessness and malicious intent. You could argue for just cluelessness. I hope you'll permit me to disagree. Let's talk about it a little bit and discuss it now in the free area. I'm done with my notes. Look, either that person, I really am having a hard time with this. Either that person was so clueless that they did not realize, no, we did not start walking down the aisle at the same time, and he could have waited a second and I would have left the aisle, because generally I don't stay any length of time in an aisle unless I'm with my son. I would have left the aisle, and quite frankly, he could have moved to the next aisle over and come back to that aisle, and probably in moments I would have been gone anyway, right? He came down an aisle where somebody was. When he started, okay, I get it. That's oops, I made a mistake, oops, it's an accident. Now the question is, what do you do from there? How do you handle that? Well, I can tell you from personal experience, particularly in modern days where COVID is a big thing and a lot of people want to maintain social distance, I can tell you what I do about that. If somebody's in an aisle and I see them there, if I can not even go in the aisle to begin with, I won't. If I start down the aisle, I back out and turn around if that person was in the aisle before I was. It's not even a thing. Again, if two people are walking an aisle with no carts, personally, frankly, probably they both will fit in the aisle, and it's no big deal. Even if one person is with a cart and the other person is not, generally they'll fit. Though lots of times the person with the cart will block an entire aisle, and that probably is more cluelessness than malice, right? They won't think about it. They'll just put their cart in the middle of the aisle and make it almost impossible to get around them. And what makes it worse is then sometimes you'll start to try and they'll start to move in ways that block you off. And I don't think that's malicious. I think they're just being clueless about it at about that point. But when a person is in an aisle and I see that person in the aisle and I know I want to be in that aisle, too bad I'm not going in that aisle if I know that it's going to cause problems for me to do so. That's on me. And I have a choice. I start out with cluelessness just like anybody else, but I see there's somebody there and suddenly it becomes an issue of whether or not I want to be malicious or whether I'm going to be graceful. And my choice typically is to be graceful. The individual that I'm talking about chose to continue to walk down that aisle, whatever his reason for doing so. And whether you think so or not, you can say that he was just totally witless. He was totally not thinking about it. But the argument of his coming back to me later and saying that acting like I had done something wrong, which, by the way, I think it was the calling him a name, right, that he thought I did wrong. And he was the thing that I called him, though I shouldn't have called him the thing that I did in the strong words that I did. But the thing is, and we won't get into details on that again. It was something I should not have said. I was wrong for doing it. And I'll call myself out for that fact. I should have maybe said you're a jerk or whatever and left it at that. But I don't think he would have handled that much better, to be frank with you. And I think whether he realized it or not, he was actually being malicious toward me by that point in time. Here's the funny thing. I almost said, go ahead, call security. Bring him out. I almost said that. And then what I would have done is said, this guy decided he was calling security on me when I'm standing here watching my son, and he's between me and my son, and it would have been over. The whole exchange would have been over, and he would have, well, he called me a name or whatever, and I would have said, I walked away from that whole situation as quickly as I was able to do so, leaving him alone. Yes, I called him a name, I'll cop to that. But I walked away from that situation and tried not to mess with him anymore. I made it my business to walk away from the situation, to back out and to walk away. When somebody does something like that, it's no longer, in my mind, in the court of idiocy or foolishness. It's now in the court of an intent to do things that are unreasonable, improper, bad, and wrong. Maliciousness. So this is why I wanted to kind of get into this subject today, because I want for you to understand, whether you think there is or not, there's this line in the sand. And the line says, when you're dealing with a given situation, and oops, you accidentally put yourself in a bad spot or somebody else in a bad spot, and then you continue to put people in a bad spot when you're the one who put people in that spot to begin with, that's a sign of more than just cluelessness, people. Whether you're thinking about it or not, that is a malicious activity. Okay? This is what I'm trying to get across today. And I really want for you to think about that in all circumstances, not just this one. Stop putting people in malicious circumstances. When I see people have commented on something on social media and I realize that I'm just going to cause more problems by talking about it than not, I walk away. Maybe I'll do something separate like this piece that I'm doing right now, but I walk away. I'm generally not going to cause, anything to happen. Now, if I comment on something or say something on social media and somebody responds to that or replies to that, I'm probably going to reply to it because at that point they're tacking their stuff onto what I said. That's a different thing to me. But as a rule, that's the only time I'm going to do that. And that's one of the reasons that I stopped really commenting on social media, by the way. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap this up. As you can tell, what I'm saying is there's a not so fine line, in my opinion, between maliciousness and cluelessness. And I hope that you will stay with cluelessness if you do either. I recognize sometimes that we're going to do at least that part of things. I hope that you don't go to the place of malice, however. Okay, I'm going to wrap up as I say. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of December of 2021. That means tomorrow will be that middle of the week day, Wednesday, the 22nd of December of 2021. End of this week is, of course, the Christmas time frame, and obviously the end of the month we get to that new year and end the old year and start the new one. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me that boxing glove or Rumble on Rumble, or you can give me a plus to show that you liked what I did and said when I did my little piece. You can give me a minus if you don't like what I do or say while I'm doing what I do. You can give me a thumbs up or a like on YouTube, or a thumbs down or a dislike on YouTube if you choose to do that as well, obviously. So whichever of the two that you choose to do. Remember that if I put my content somewhere and comments are possible, particularly if I'm notified when the comments are made, I'll do everything that I can to look at them. If I feel it's reasonable, I will respond to them. If I don't, I will work to internalize whatever it is that people have said if I think that it's worth my consideration, which most of the time I'll just tell you I at least try to find things in comments that are. The subject for today has been cluelessness or malice. The subject for tomorrow is going to be it's not playing dirty, and I want to discuss something that I've heard a bunch of people say about how other people are playing dirty and we should do likewise in certain situations, political in nature primarily. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you, and I hope to see you again on Wednesday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Tuesday, the 21st of December of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.